I want to say good afternoon. Does 12 o'clock on the dot, can I count as afternoon, Ian? I don't know.
Yeah, it does, Rich. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Good afternoon, everybody. Or afternoon if you're in the UK. Look, that just throws another spanner in the works, mate. But if you're in the UK, good afternoon. Everybody else, I don't know where you're at. It's good to see you all. Thanks for joining. If you're here already, thank you. I love the keenness. I love the interest in listening to Ian speak. We're going to give it kind of 90 seconds to get people here. If you are here already, please say hi in the comments. Say where you're from, where you're listening from, and don't be afraid to ask questions. The more questions you have, the better. It's going to be really interesting point of view, looking at elite football, how we look after our youth in elite football. But also how the team are structured as well, and how the team are creating success between them as a team, and getting that through to the youths in the academy as well. And I'm pretty excited. This is West Ham, so my boyhood club, and getting them to have that conversation and showcase what a fantastic job they're doing, which is pretty exciting. But we'll give people a moment to join. And I said, if you are here, please say hello. I know Ryan Briggs said he was going to join us in, so that's one person I know who's definitely coming. But please say hello. Yeah. All right. Look, I've given everybody 100 seconds to join. If you are here, please, as I said, please say hello. And if you have got any questions, please don't be afraid to ask, because it will make for a much better session than me just hoping to get the right question. Hi, Lucy. It's nice for you. Thank you for joining from Newcastle as well. It's miserable down here. I can imagine it's a little bit colder up there, but that's just me being a southerner. Thanks for joining. If you have any questions, please do ask Lucy. All right, let's again. Thank you, Ian, for joining us. I'm looking forward to our conversation and podcast around transferring the skills that we learn from, or we can learn from elite academy football, both from two angles: how you look after your elite athletes from a young age, and the framework that you use, because that's really interesting, as well as how your team creates success as a team, not only from yourself as player care manager, but also the team, the training team, the coaching team, and the rest of the staff. Hi, Mark. Thanks for joining. And yeah, how we can put that into the workplace, because I think that's going to be where skills are learned for a lot of people. So rather than me rambling on forever, I'm going to do a quick introduction and we'll get us introduced, and I've got a few questions in. So let me do myself, and then I'll throw it over to you. So if you don't know who I am, my name's Rich. I am the founder of a wellbeing company called Employees Health, which is where this podcast started from. But I'm also the founder of a learning development, leadership development company called LP Revolution, which is new to market, and website is coming soon, where we educate leadership in how they can perform at their best, also create high-performing teams, as well as do one-to-one coaching in human sustainable performance. So if you want to know any more about that, please drop me a line. But that's me done. I've got a background in sport. I should probably mention that, which links quite well to the stuff I talk about, and why I've got Ian here as well, and where the interest lies for me. And I've played sport for 30 plus years now. Love looking at elite sports and what we can learn from those. So I'm really fascinated by the conversation and where this is going to go. Ian, rather than me butcher your introduction, can you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Rich. Real pleasure to be here today. Thank you for inviting me along. Hi everyone. Yeah, I'm Ian. I'm player care manager at West Ham United, a post that I've held for around 12 months now. It's coming up for the anniversary. I begun kind of pre-season last season, and I've had a year here as part of the wider academy, as part of the player care department, as part of a department that links with education, and as part of a multidisciplinary team that works with the young people at West Ham, under 9s right through to sort of under 21s, hopefully progressing into professional professional levels with West Ham or elsewhere. I've previously held a similar role at Norwich City. Uh, so for what ended up being sort of 18 months. And then prior to that, I spent 5 years at Colchester United in what was a education role, but Colchester United with less resource compared to the Category 1 environment I find myself now. It's a Category 2 environment with less resource. There was a lot of opportunity to develop in the area of player care and helping everyone on their academy journey. And it was really good to be part of the team at those previous clubs as well. I've begun my kind of career with teaching. I qualified as a teacher several years ago now, and I was working mostly in further education. And that was when I first got an introduction into working in football. It was through Dagenham Redbridge when they were in the EFL back then. I was teaching the scholars, the young people at Dagenham through the link with the local college, and I took on a head of education role for the football club, and had a link with the through working as a teacher and also then beginning the development of the young athletes. So that's kind of that's what's led me to where I am today. Lots of varied experiences, things that have made sense and have gone in a linear fashion, and things that I've learned, and then things that are completely different in the different environments that I've found myself. So I'm basically here now at West Ham, trying my best to make it a good experience for the young people that I'm fortunate enough to work for, as I see it, and being part of a team, and looking to develop as best we can.
Um, Two questions. First one is, so how long does that now mean that you've been involved in football?
Yeah, so involved in football. Yes, I got my first involvement in football. It was around sort of 11 years ago. When I first kind of began the teaching and the head of education role that was part time that came with that. I got into football full time in around 2017. So yeah, kind of it's fair bit of experience now, sort of around 11 years, with some form of football, like working within what I'm doing for my living.
Yeah. What's been the biggest learning of almost a decade in sport, looking after young athletes?
I think that maybe the biggest learning is that you never really stop learning. That's potentially a bit of a cliche, and it's been said before, but yeah, I think it is quite true, because there's so many situations that you find yourself in, and I always feel that with experience in any area, be it becoming a professional footballer, be it something that someone practices, the idea of experience is that those situations, they present themselves to you again, and then you can draw on those experiences, perhaps do things differently from what you did last time, or perhaps you've got an understanding for how it works. But there will always be things that completely blindside you, that are completely new experiences, and that you need to then kind of consider what you feel is the most effective way, and to make sure that there's other people around you that you trust and that you can actually speak with to get some help and insight on the particular situation that you're dealing with. Yeah, so I'd say it's kind of always continue your learning, always try and develop what you're doing, but yeah, also trust those around you as well, and don't try and isolate yourself from what is the wider academy and the wider workplace that you're working in.
Yeah, nice. I love that. Always be learning. I think that's such a nice motto, probably, to live by as well, right?
Yeah, I think so. And obviously with myself as well, that's learning from experience, but I have also a lot of CPD opportunities that the football clubs have been great with helping me to pursue those. So I've been fortunate enough to be able to take on a course within player care. I've completed some CPD looking at an apprenticeship in leadership and management, because if you like, I was working within academy football, within player care, but it was my first opportunity to actually lead people and lead a department. So that was really, really useful CPD. So learning from experiences, but also being able to form, kind of formulate a plan that means I develop professionally as well has been really important.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I love that. I think it's such a great thing to consistently keep doing. Hi, Briggsy. It's good to see you, mate. And yeah, you're not that much of a big dog to have your shirt in the background. But this is a nod to you. This next question is a nod to you, Briggsy. What's it like playing at the best club in the world? Or working at the best club in the world? Sorry, not playing.
Yeah, so you have to ask a few. That's a really skewed question from a West Ham supporter, but I'm gonna let it slide and answer it as you've asked it. Yeah, so West Ham, the Academy of Football. So it's certainly, I feel that for the young people that have the opportunity to take part in the program at West Ham, I don't think, if you look at what's happened over time and the amount of players that have been produced and have gone on to have careers, I think you can argue that it's certainly in the top echelon in terms of player production across the world. So I think that working, you get the real sense of history, and that leads obviously to responsibility. So it's the kind of environment where there's a constant strive for excellence, but also you can tell with West Ham United that you're expected to roll your sleeves up and make sure things are happening. It's a club with working class roots, and it's an academy that has consistently punched above its weight. Winning the FA Youth Cup 4 times, particularly one when Ryan was involved in that one several years ago. We've obviously been successful within on the field this season as well at youth team level, with another trophy success, and all throughout time there's those successes, but it's also the springboard that it's given to young people to have a career and to play for West Ham or to play elsewhere within the EFL overseas. So if you think of the players that West Ham have been able to bring through, and you think right from club legend, sporting director currently Mark Noble, who was able to play all those games for West Ham and play his entire career there, right through to someone like Declan Rice, who was in the academy. He's had some experience playing for the first team here, and then he's moved on, he's progressed his career, and it's been successful for the club through gaining the transfer fee. And then right through to this season with someone like Ollie Scholes, again in the FA Youth Cup winning team 2 years ago, making full Premier League debut and becoming a real key part of the squad. So I think that you know that you're working for somewhere that it's really important to produce players, but also somewhere that really cares and understands that that won't be the journey for everybody. It's going to be successful into our first team. So it's important to understand that we have a key role in supporting our people and making sure that they have all the opportunities to get the most from the experience of being here at West Ham.
Yeah, awesome. So one of the things when we met to discuss this podcast that really stood out, we were trying to find the angle, was around kind of the pillars that you focus on when supporting those youth, the youth as a player care manager. I'd love for you just to walk through those key pillars, and hopefully explore those in a bit more detail.
Yeah, sure, Rich. The player care pillars are designed by the Premier League when player care became more formalised as an area of work. Sort of 5-6 years ago now, I would suggest that player care has always been a part of academies, but it just became more formalised recently. So the player care pillars. And sort of I've got them here in front of me, so I'm sort of looking at them because it's what you consistently refer back to as a player care manager. So got life skills, which links in with personal development, the mental and emotional well-being, equality, diversity and inclusion, player and parent voice, and transition. So all of those areas that we work as a department and as a wider academy, has the elements of support that will help the player and their family while they're a part of things here at West Ham, but also equip them with skills and attributes to potentially have a career as a player at West Ham United or elsewhere, or potentially progress a career alongside football or maybe in place of football. Making sure that we've got a diverse environment, that what we offer here um, understands the demographic of the people that we're working with, and celebrates that, and also making sure that it's an environment that is is considering the mental and emotional well-being and the all-round well-being, the holistic development and the holistic approach to making sure that it's a good experience for everyone here at West Ham. So yeah, that's the player care pillar set out by the Premier League, and each club uh, follows those, and we put our own spin on it as West Ham United.
So can we have a look at that spin? So can you walk us through some of the key bits that you're doing as kind of key initiatives, but maybe as well as some of the key things that you're doing maybe slightly different, and you up in your own spin on that?
Yeah, yeah. I suppose each of them really would have, well, yeah, would have our own spin, but also have an element of what's expected from the Premier League. So if we take life skills, personal development, so that's a that's a curriculum that's put together by each club and run across the season. So what someone has as an under 9 clearly needs to look somewhat different to what someone has at under 21. But if someone's with West Ham from 8 years of age, what are we going to give them in terms of life skills, personal development as they progress through, alongside their schooling, then potentially becoming full time with us at 16 and becoming a scholar. So we clearly want to help those younger players with understanding of their environment around them, understanding perhaps things that are slightly more big picture, giving them education that they might only experience because they've had this opportunity with West Ham. So uh, a good example there is the tour program. So if you're in the academy, you're going to be going on at least one tour a season. So if you think of the life skills, personal development that you get from traveling to an overseas country, participating in a um, football opportunity, but also what you're going to have there to experience different cultures and to have lots of experiences against uh, playing against teams from overseas, but also interacting with those that are there from different clubs, and that obviously leads to the element of personal development both on field and off field. Um, in terms of like player and parent voice, you could imagine how important it is that we hear from our players and we hear from our parents. So there's formal and informal methods of doing that. So you may well have a meeting with a parent, a check-in with a parent, be that here at Chadwell Heath on a training evening, be it on a weekend day, when we see them and they're there watching again as a bit of time before. So those informal check-ins, but then also a formalised survey that goes out different times of the season to try and get feedback, both anonymous and those that people might want to put their name to, about how well they feel we're getting on here. And we always look to respond quickly and effectively if there's concerns being raised, or yeah, if there's things that is felt we could do better. And the same with the player voice as well. We look to speak with all of our players, and we look to take their feedback on how they're finding the experience, and things that they might suggest that we can then put in place that will improve things. I notice across the season there's been a real drive in looking at the the journey that someone has following school, to get to the training ground, and the way that a player is arriving to present himself for training, everything that's going to come with that evening. So the clubs look to we've looked to invest more in potentially the nutrition side of things, so that at least then we're evening up that playing field. If someone's had to jump on a train bus to get here from South London, someone lives just around the corner, they'll be able to get home after school and prepare properly. So we've been really keen to try and help where we can, with those kind of elements. And that sort of information only comes from really getting to know your players, getting to know your families, and knowing how they're getting in getting in to see us.
Can I ask?
Yeah,
Can I
sorry,
jump
Rich.
in and just ask a question? So on that, I think that's a really good example. Have you got another example, maybe with like some feedback that you've received and you've actioned? So like someone's giving you some informal or formal feedback through one of those questionnaires or formats, and you've gone, actually, that's a really great idea. Let's implement that.
Yeah, I think there's been elements of it that has had a real shaping of how the training ground environment has developed. So sort of feedback on types of training that a player would feel would benefit them, and then how the gym and the equipment that's in the gym has developed for a particular need of a particular age group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's sort of the way that the Mark Noble Arena as it is out the back of the training ground here. It was the same 3G that Mark Noble was training on, so there was consistent feedback saying that it wasn't the best environment, wasn't the most conducive for their development. So there was investment in that went into the 3G.
Mm-hmm.
Getting quite a lot of feedback at the moment about the facility that we have at Little Heath and how best to move that forward. And over time, we developed more links with the women's team. So thinking about how best to integrate the women's team into our environment, and we currently have them with us at Chadwell Heath. So yeah, it's always really positive. Always, I think that there's, if you like, there's the magic wand that you might ask a player, and then you could think about the slightly newer facilities that you're seeing around now in some cases, much newer within the fellow Category 1 academies, and clearly players are going to have contacts at other clubs, and they're going to speak, and they're going to find out what's happening at other places. So there might be some suggestions that can't be done with the environment that we have, but yeah, a lot of the time it's potentially sort of innovation that might have been picked up from a visit to play somewhere else, because clearly we go to other training grounds, and yeah, kind of those things as well. But yeah, always try to lead the way with innovation as well.
Yeah.
I think that with the younger players, sometimes you can run a player voice session, and it's a bit sort of like, oh, can we have a swimming pool? Like, don't I don't like don't like the kit manufacturer. Can we change that kind of thing? So things that are totally kind of off the off the scale for being able to change.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So it's if you like with the younger ones in particular, it's sort of making sure that you've given them a chance to have a voice, and if you like there might be something that comes out of it that you can do to help that particular group. But a lot of the time, that's more focused around the parents. When someone's coming in and they're that bit older and they're here full time, you really
Yeah.
do want to try and make the environment work for them.
Yeah. I love that. And it shows if you are listening as well. I think that's some key part. I think that's a transferable skill to the organisation as well, right? Like you see organisations doing lots of feedback and questionnaires and these year surveys. And the ones that do it right are the ones that listen and make action and take action afterwards, which is key. And obviously sounds like you guys are doing that. There's a couple of questions. I don't know if you can see those. Mark's asked a question here. How easy/difficult do you think the formalisation of player care has been to be regarded as pivotal as other aspects of a club's academy MDT?
Yeah, really good question, Martin. Really thought-provoking question as well. Yeah, it certainly wouldn't come down on the easy side. It has been difficult, I think, to maybe educate the rest of the multidisciplines around where player care comes into it. Um, I've often said that I think that player care might be where sports science was maybe sort of 15, 20 years ago. Um, if you think back to where football was then, there wasn't tracking devices, there wasn't like necessarily the same level of measurements in terms of sports science. It was sort of the coach trained the players, and if they were going red in the face and sweaty, then the coach knew they were working hard enough. So the way that that's developed, I think that player care is on a similar kind of journey, and I only think that it's been possible to like to show over time the effect that positive player care can have on an environment. So I think it's very difficult, Mark, but I think it is it is achievable by maybe being consistent as well, by showing that you care about these people, by showing that you want to be a part of the MDT and you want to be a part of what we're doing at the club. So that means showing up at training sessions. That means showing up on tours, being there at matches, and you're there and you can be part of things. And yeah, and I think it's just it's growing, and it's becoming something that I think that the MDT can see the benefit of. So yeah, I think it's been difficult, but I think it is moving forward.
Um, I guess I get an input here is like I've always seen you, and obviously we've known each other for what 2-3 months now. I always feel like I see you at these events being visible for both parents, kids, going to Holland, going to these different locations to support those tournaments where parents can see you, kids can see you, and makes it easier for people to reach out and have that feedback because you're building that trust.
Yeah, I
think
think
it's
that's
really
it.
good, right?
Yeah, I think that's it. Totally, Rich. I think honestly, the amount of opportunity that there is to support a young person that's here. There's school holidays when they're in more often, and we look to run holistic development days with the group. So you get to spend a whole day with the group. You'll see the parent at drop off. You'll take feedback from them afterwards. So when the parents arrive on a Sunday morning, Little Heath to be there for the matches, there's around an hour where they've dropped off before the game's going to start. So just being there, being visible, having a nice informal conversation, and just so people can see you and they begin to see you as a trusted figure. They know that there's someone there that they can speak with. That's I think that's really important to doing that. So yeah, it's about being a presence really. I think that's where it is really with player care. It can be a department, but it's more of a presence that interweaves with the rest of the multidisciplines. And there's clearly going to be situations where you might have more contact with a particular area of that MDT. So, for example, if we have an injured player, he's going to be spending a lot of time with the treatment, the medical team. So it's about complementing the work that they do, and then perhaps certain practical and operational elements that come into it as well, so people can see the benefit of being maybe accompanying a player along if there is something that's happening, and yeah, and like looking to support them within those more practical based elements as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's just something that happens gradually over time as well. You can't really rush that. I've been at the club for a year. You think how many players there are here and how many parents and families there are. It's not something that you can ever rush. You just need to sort of be around the different settings and become someone that hopefully is trusted by players and their families.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as you said, if you're there, that will begin to happen, right? It will happen. And a couple more great questions in the comments. And we'll get back to that framework in a second. But Lucy's asked a really good one here. Is there any pressure from the club to find new ways, sometimes thinking outside the box, ways of supporting young people with such a sometimes vulnerable age/period of life?
Yeah, thanks, Lucy. Yeah, no, a really good question. I think, yeah, in terms of pressure, I mean, I do feel an element of pressure, um, to think about ways of, yeah, supporting players, and the different elements that might have a positive impact on how they're performing at West Ham United, or how they're going to progress like forward and have a good experience. And clearly, that's what we want people to either go on and play for West Ham or leave West Ham and only talk about a good experience. So there's a real sort of I feel a pressure in making sure that the environment is good for developing those young people. Um, I think that maybe there becomes a bit of pressure as well when you have a player who's doing particularly well, of which we're, I say, fortunate. It's all credit to the players that they are playing internationally, might be playing in older age groups, under 21s, perhaps even having involvement with the first team, and it feels like there's a pressure to make sure that their development, their education that they're getting, formal, informal, um, to to help them, that needs to carry on, so that there's nothing that's going to keep them away from the pitch. So the pressure there, if you like that thinking outside the box, needs to be, how can we help somebody who's going to be training under 21s and then they're travelling to and from somewhere in the north of England, and then they're only going to be back in with us for a few hours. So then the challenge there becomes, what other elements can we use to help that player? Is there opportunities for them to learn while they're at home, for example? So yeah, that's potentially where a little bit of pressure comes in, because if someone's not on track, then that could cause us a problem, and we might want to make sure that we got the best players taken to the field for West Ham United in the appropriate age group.
Can I just pick up on a couple of key bits I heard from both questions in your responses, and how we can transfer that into the workplace, because that's one of the things we want to do, right? The visibility, which you spoke about from Mark's answer, I think it's highlights this real importance for managers and leaders to also find a way to be visible, but to get visibility from the team as well. And that's where I think the collaboration and working in the office or wherever that might be, to get feedback, to get input, to create a really great culture is really important. So I think, just while I jump on that before I miss that opportunity, and how important that visibility is, and how we create that culture as a leader. And then last bit there is that thinking out of the box, but thinking out of the box for specific individuals in the workplace. And I always reflect on the best leaders, and I always reflect on football, is that the best managers know their team and know their individuals really well. And I think that's the same for what you're saying, is actually understanding your individuals where they're at that moment. And then, okay, so how do we support that person? Is there anything out of the box we could do which can support that person as well?
Yeah, I think so, Rich. Yeah, and then that kind of, we think about any reasonable adaptations, those kind of elements that come into it, and this is almost that, but thinking about these type of elite environments, but also making sure that any adaptation is obviously fair for the rest of the group, but it doesn't kind of have that impact where you might have someone feel in a way that you don't want them to, and either they could see the areas that they do outside of training and playing as not important, or we want to make good people. We don't want to make someone who feels that everything's being done for them, and that there's that perception of footballers that they're completely out of touch. We really want to try and move away from that and make sure we're making young men who take responsibility for themselves.
Yeah, I love that. Justin, I feel like I want to ask you a question once we've gone through these kind of pillars that West Ham and the Premier League have set out. So I think that's a really great question, but let's round that question off once we've gone through those pillars. And Ryan, yeah, we will definitely talk about the aftercare, because that's going to be an important part. So Ian, back over to you, mate. You've covered two, and I know one of the key parts is that emotional and mental support, which I really want to hear about.
Yeah, if we think about mental and emotional well-being, and how that looks, and it's something that we've had a lot of guidance on, again from Premier League. So we have national and regional get-togethers, looking at what's going on at particular clubs, and I think that particularly when we're in the Category 1 environment, there's a lot of professionals at the club that would have an impact and have a positive impact on mental and emotional well-being. So, for example, here at West Ham, we have performance psychology. We have a safeguarding department that also has responsibility for well-being. We have ourselves, we have education, and then there's obviously all of the coaches, the physios as well. So there's so many different elements that are contributing to the mental and emotional well-being, that it's now been advised that we look to manage it as a shared space, and consider the most effective way to offer that mental and emotional well-being support. And I think it's a really positive way forward, that moving forward, the academy doctor will be sort of signing off the mental and emotional well-being action plan that we'll have. So sort of what are we doing to encourage positive well-being, and to look after people in that way? But then also we've got the action plan, if someone does have challenges in terms of their mental health, how are we going to support them? What's going to be in place? And it's really important that we have medical professionals involved in that.
Mhm.
So it's going to be structured in such a way that it always comes back to offering that mental health support in the same way that you would do with somebody who's got an injury. So there's a lot of kind of positive developments that are happening in terms of their mental and emotional well-being support, and what we can offer as a football club, and sort of football more widely, more generally.
Yeah, I think like it sounds like a very proactive response. So trying to support them actively, consistently, as well as having a good plan of action for when they need it in those worst moments, I guess, or those kind of moments when they need support, which is also vital, right? I'm
Yeah,
looking forward.
yeah,
I'm actually really looking forward to seeing it once you, because you said you are now amalgamating it all and figuring out what the right protocol needs to be and how it looks, and I look forward to seeing that when it's done.
yeah, yeah. Be really pleased to share that with you. Yes, I think that when the Premier League have fed back on the most effective mental and emotional well-being support, they were able to give us some examples from different clubs, and it was that shared space collaboration with the
Mhm.
different departments that's been most effective. So, yeah, really keen to see how that will develop sort of as we go into next season.
Yeah, and I can see you obviously have a huge role here as well as player care, to create open, honest, authentic conversations as well. And do you get many people coming in sharing their own stories, personal stories? I think when I think about football, where will the impact be? Do you get like the ex pros coming in and sharing those stories?
Oh, definitely, yeah. Um, yeah, fortunate enough through the alumni program, I'll give you a bit more detail on in a bit. It's just we've got access to former players, of which Ryan's a good example. There's Jordan Antonio Brown who's coming to help us, who's currently playing in the Baller League down at the Copper Box. So that's where his career's taken him, and they can come in. They've spent time with our young players to sort of look at their area of expertise that they have now, but also talk a little bit about their journeys and kind of what support that can be to a current player. So really great to have former players come back in and help with that. And we're also fortunate enough to have a number of members of alumni that currently work in the academy. So again, it's that understanding of what it means, and maybe potentially the effect that it can have, and like the challenge that it can be as well to try and consistently perform at such elite levels.
Mhm.
And I think that player care sort of comes in to support that in like providing those situations, but also maybe being available to listen, just being there around the place again. Talks about being a presence, knowing that players can call in and see us, and they can have a conversation, knowing that you can see them in the different settings as well. But it's important to encourage our our young people, our players, to talk wherever they're comfortable with. You think how many settings there are where they're going to see members of staff. So if they happen to be injured, spend a lot of time in the physio room, there's going to be a real link there, and the physio is going to be someone they're likely to speak with. We've got great staff here who sort of work in the canteen, in the kitchen, and then
Mhm.
there's rapport that goes there. So they might have a conversation. So it's just about making sure that as members of staff, we're checking in with each other to kind of make sure that the support's being offered there. So if you like, sort of player care just becomes perhaps how we formalize that support and make sure that
Mhm.
there's always that's happening around different members of staff that can support the young people.
Yeah, I love that. Mac, back over to you. What's the
Yeah,
next part?
sure. Yeah, so thinking a little bit about equality, diversity, and inclusion, which again linking this to the workplace is very important in all different workplaces. Um, in terms of EDI, it's a celebration of like what we have within our academy, both obviously players, staff, and a diverse community that we have in East London, and making sure that's celebrated, but also thinking a little bit around diversity of opinion, making sure that we've got people from different backgrounds, maybe people who have been in professional football, people who have been outside of it, looking to have an inclusive environment, and also where it comes into the life skills and personal development, to celebrate the milestones that the Premier League set out, and making sure that we have education and opportunities around the different areas of EDI that the Premier League celebrate. So what you've probably seen with the Rainbow Laces campaign that happens at different times of the season, no room for racism with the taking of the knee, and that comes out into the wider academy. So yeah, sort of a real celebration and awareness of EDI, but also education, and what we do in terms of mandatory education for EDI each season is make sure that we're giving all of our young people an opportunity and understanding of what EDI is, and perhaps the battles that have been fought in the past and continue to be fought now, so that they have a real understanding of that.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, great initiatives.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and then just sort of to round things off is one that Ryan touched on there about transition and exit. So that leads sort of into our aftercare and alumni. So you think we've got transitions that occur through age groups, through phases. You have people that transition from academy into first team, people that transition from here to other clubs on loan. So it's managing those transitions, making sure there's support in place when people are progressing through or progressing out to other clubs. But then also that does go into the reality that not everyone's going to stay and play for West Ham. So there's going to be release points through the academy, often 10, 12, 14, and then sort of they don't get a scholarship at 16, and then when they're young professionals as well. So it's making sure that there's support in place at the point that they are exiting the club, and that there's a real smooth process to make sure that we share their information with clubs they might want to trial with. We open their eyes to other education streams or something that they might want to do if they're going into semi-professional football. We can link them up with organisations that mean they can play professionally in different parts of the world. So yeah, the transition and exit, which leads into aftercare, which develops into sort of 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, and then kind of a year on. Then we try and keep that support going across a period of 3 years, at the point that they've left us, and they might be playing for another club, they might be in education now, they might have gone into a different area of work. So yeah, there's a number of different support mechanisms that we can put in place for people at those points of transition. But I say you say it's a 3-year program for aftercare, but then actually they become part of alumni, and they might be football club alumni and academy alumni, or they might just have been through the academy and not play for the football club, or they might just have been from the football club. So it's about linking those different areas of alumni together as well, and finding how that can be supportive to young people that we have here now, and how we can be supportive to those people within the alumni setting as well.
Mm-hmm. How do you think an organisation can take those key points there and implement that into onboarding and exiting of people?
Yeah, I think when you think about organisations and what is said within like an onboarding process, and perhaps like spelling out how it might progress to that at some particular point, I think there's probably an element of nervousness for people to be um, sounding negative at a point that something particularly positive has happened. But I think that's just facing up to the fact that at some point everyone's going to be a former player. Like whether they have a few years within the academy, they might go and play professionally. They might play 500 odd games and play for England. Everything, at some point you're going to be a former player. So it's recognizing that reality. Perhaps within onboarding, you spell out more what the program would be, and then as they become more a part of the environment, you can then begin to be more generalized about what the transition and exit process might look like, and then kind of managing it at the point that it occurs. no surprises is kind of something that we try and aim towards, try and make sure that there's enough reviews. I think that's something that would come as a link with the workplace. If you're carrying out workplace appraisals, if you're setting targets, objectives, and kind of being really clear about the elite environment that you're in, and sort of how fluid it can be with people coming in, it's got potential there to lead towards the point of exit.
Yeah.
I think as well, where it's maybe different to a workplace is that with football you can get to a particular level, and that's where you've got to, and you're not really doing anything wrong as such, not doing anything that's like bad. It's just that that's your level, and then there's going to be recruitment happens that there's someone there who takes it to that elite level. So a lot of the time the feedback to a young person probably doesn't seem particularly negative, but there's still a point of release, and that is just because the player, like you talk about within recruitment, you probably understand yourself about performance and potential, about kind of where someone's taking their performance and kind of where their potential gets to, and sort of at the point that those two cross over and the potential is no longer there, then it's likely to be like the end of the journey at West Ham. But again, there's a long way to go in football. There's a long way to potentially find another career elsewhere within football. Yeah, of course.
I think that's a really good point. I think the crossover I see is, as you said, the onboarding I can see being key, but you say you've got this alumni, which then if you do leave West Ham, there's support outside of West Ham for those players. And obviously you probably can't do that so much in the organisation, but you could easily create an exiting that allows that person to make sure they feel supported, they feel like they're being heard, and they're kind of having opportunities and support to find the next role. So I see organisations who implement coaching for people who are exiting, so that they're getting their CVs in the right place, they're finding the opportunities, they're kind of expressing what they want to do and really pushing themselves. And so I think that for me could be like that kind of transitional, the transferable skill from what you guys are doing into the organisation.
Yeah, I think so, and I think that transferable skill into what you're taking forward is sort of something that then, if you like, you can have a community of those other individuals that have transitioned out, and there's support within that community where people who have been through the same experience are able to help each other as well. So I think that, like I say, I've just seen a question there from Isaac, who worked with at Norwich. When we sat and looked at alumni there, we were considering the community, and how those within the alumni community can support each other, opportunities that we can give them as part of being our alumni, and also perhaps slightly selfishly taking back, what opportunities can they give to our current academy players through having a link with such a diverse range of people. And it was about education opportunities as well. So from having been a part of West Ham Academy, like you said, that exit strategy, what can we look to offer someone as they go forward and progress through, and look after them in that sense as well.
Yeah, I love it. Look, I want to lean into Justin's question. And if we got a bit of time, maybe look at what the team are doing. But we've obviously discussed so much around how you look after us. We might not get time to look at how the team are creating success within the hour. But Justin's question here, Justin's question is, how do you see the future of player care provision? And kind of follows that on with, like, in 5 years' time, what would you hope to see?
Yeah. Hi, Justin. Good to hear from you. It's really that's a really interesting question. And I think that you take that period of 5 years, that's a good period of time to think about where player care has come from and where it can potentially go to. I would suggest that having more applied player care through the phases, and perhaps specialisms might be somewhere that academies go. If you look at where first team player care provision has gone, it's gone from being a sort of player liaison, making sure that houses and schools and everything was looked after, into now there's a lot of kind of language support potentially for players from overseas that's formed part of that. again, additional education opportunities to help within the community. So I think it will be growing the workforce and looking to be applied for what a particular player, particularly as they get that bit older, what they would want to do. So what is their passion alongside football, and how can we facilitate them being able to take part in that? So if someone has a particular passion for some charity work, being able to have enough staff and resource to be able to take them out into the community to do that. If someone is passionate about a future career that they might do after they finish playing football, right, great, we've got a member of staff with a specialism in that can then take them out and help them within that. So I think probably growing the human resource of player care into being able to be more applied for particular age groups, particular phases, but then also being experts in the elements that I've touched on within the player care pillars. So yeah, I think potentially growing that resource and being able to be more applied in the support that can be offered.
Yeah, love that. Yeah. Look, I do want to. We've got a bit of time. Let's touch on the team at West Ham and what you guys are doing to create success. We'll keep it brief. Ideally, we'd have a little bit more time for this, but let's have a look at some of the key things that you see that the team are doing.
Yeah, thinking about the player care team and sort of what we've been able to develop over the period of time that I've been here. So we've grown the team into a new member of staff, our player care officer Catherine, who started a couple of months ago. We also work with Kira, who's our player care officer, who's been here for a number of years. So we've grown the resource into looking to offer a level of support for different sort of different ranges of players and their families. The department links up with education. We have Jamie here who looks after education and player care. So the whole department, if you like, has been grown and has been able to be around different settings a bit more regularly. So yeah, the work of the team, we look to divide it a bit into age groups, but then also into different areas as well. So if you think you could go sort of 9s to 14s with a lot of the holistic development that we've done, we've been able to host days within the school holidays in October half term, February half term, and at Easter that have had a different focus around one of the pillars that's been able to offer real specific development for that group of 9s to 14s. So that's something that's happened that hasn't been able to be done before. So that's a real sort of applied development for those particular age groups. There's been a need to have a logistical element of support and also like caring as well, just in more generally with players who have gone out on loan. We've had a lot of players out on loan around various parts of the EFL this season, and players that the club think very highly of as well. FA Youth Cup winners from 2 years ago. So the work of the team has been to make sure those players are supported, and we link in with the loans department, overseen by Carlton Cole. So whereas they would have more of a focus on being at the games, checking in with coaches and the professional development staff they have at their club, it's as important for us to make sure we're going to see them in their environment, training ground, where are they living, kind of what's their lifestyle like around these lower division clubs, and how are they adapting to the environment. You think of the range of clubs that we're working with there. You've got Bristol City, obviously really widely resourced and so much kind of going on there, right down to maybe clubs that are in League Two that would have more challenges in terms of resource and staffing. So you need to be able to connect well with the club. So yeah, sort of lots of loan support has become more of a part of it. But I think the way that the department's grown in terms of personnel, and then we've just looked to kind of, particularly for myself, having a season, and Catherine, a new member of staff, only been here for a few months, just begun to be around it and to really put together a plan as we go into the new season to sort of maximise our resource, being able to use the experience of Jamie and Kira that have been here for a bit longer as well. So I think at the moment it's kind of catch the breath and begin to think about how we'll put the plan together going into the new season.
Yeah, I love it. Sounds like you got some good stuff going on, and growing, as you said, growing the resource to support. I feel like I could probably ask a lot more questions, but I'm aware that I want to keep this to under an hour. My last question is the question I ask everybody, but I'm going to be quite specific with it. What's your top 3 tips from what you're doing that organizations can learn or use to help their teams thrive?
Yeah, I think if you sort of condensed it down into 3 tips that could apply more generally, I would say it's get to know your people is like a really the most important one. I think get to know the staff that you're working with. If it's an organisation that you're working for a customer, obviously in our case it's young people that are our customers as such. Really sort of get to know them. I'd say plan effectively, and that planning needs to look at like whatever period of time it is that you work across as that organisation. So for us, we have the season, and then that gets condensed down into what you might call an induction period each season as people are settling back in. We have new starters, and then there's the different points of the season where you've got international breaks, players are going to be off here, there, and everywhere like that. So think maybe about your organisation and what particular elements your calendar has, and how to plan effectively around that. And I think that like the kind of the other one would just be around sort of being able to keep calm and be able to be malleable with the situations that occur, because no matter how much planning you put in, and there's always going to be things that appear on a particular day that need dealing with there and then, and it's not going to enable you to work effectively if you're frustrated and irritated about that happening. I always think like if you were thinking from a football perspective, if someone's fouled you and you spend the whole game trying to get back at them because they fouled you, you're not going to be able to play effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So with this one, something's happened, yeah, sure, deal with it, and then the opportunity then comes to move on. So through the planning and through feeding back to people, hopefully that situation would occur, and it'll be able to be dealt with better in the future. Yeah, so I think that's what I'd go with for 3 areas. I don't think you go too far wrong with those three tips.
Mate, I completely agree with you. Thank you. Really great tips, and transferable into the workplace. I can see how that kind of really fits in. Thank you, Ian. I really appreciate your time to share this stuff. And thank you, everybody, for joining and asking such really great questions, and adding some really valuable feedback and insights. Really appreciate you joining and sharing. Next one should be next week, similar time, looking at the legal lens to wellbeing in the legal sector. If you want to keep an eye on that, follow me and connect with me, and you'll see all the next wellbeing updates. Otherwise, Ian, thank you again. Really appreciate your time. Appreciate your insights into the Elite Academy and the world's greatest club. Although I might be a bit biased on that, but yeah, thank you again, and I look forward to seeing that continue and seeing you continue doing what you're doing. If you stay there quickly, everybody else, I'll see you all later. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everyone.